Hi guys. My last video just very abruptly lost power, and I've had to kind of clip it there, like at a certain point, and it appears to end abruptly because I wasn't actually finished. So I've come back. I wanted to go through just I want to compare some past enforcement of WGA violations and then look at Ryan Reynolds' situation and see what should have happened in that scenario. How should the WGA have treated um, his alleged violations? And there's this article from Variety, and I'm not going to read it word for word, but I will put a link to it if people are interested. But basically, there were four members. This is, what was the date of this? This is during the 2023 strikes, but the date of this article is April 11th, 2025. Four members who were appealing disciplinary actions. So they have been accused of violating guild rules during the 2023 strike. So three of the writers are accused of performing forbidden writing services, and a fourth member is accused of making an off-color joke in a Facebook group of fellow writers. Now there are three others as well who have been disciplined, and they're choosing not to appeal. But these three are actually choosing to appeal. And I just want to look at some of the scenarios here. I won't read all of this in any depth at all, like I say. So there was one person, he was a writer director of an independent film, Guns Up. That was in production in New Jersey during the strike. Very similar to It Ends With Us. And he's accused of engaging in scab writing, and he also refused to turn over drafts of the script to guild investigators. And then finally, he's also accused of refusing to identify a person who rewrote an ending of the film who was not a guild member. Okay, so let's have I mean, he is saying, so this guy, his surname's Drake. He's arguing that he's being punished for refusing to name names and for making adjustments and tweaks in the script in his capacity as the film's director. He's sort of pitting off the DGA against the WGA, who are regularly there's always a little bit of tension there between them, over who can do what, and there seems to be overlapping confusion. But he has had a lifetime ban now. They did actually offer an 18-month suspension, and then they were going to restore his membership if he identified the person who rewrote the ending, and he said no. And the WGA is sort of arguing, look, members know what is expected of them, and to kind of do all this and continue during a strike shows contempt. So not entirely unreasonable. So where does this measure up? Well, we know who is the secret writer on It Ends With Us. It's Ryan Reynolds. We know this. Thank you, Blake Lively, for telling everyone. I'm sure I'm sure Ryan Reynolds cringed at that moment. We don't know if Ryan Reynolds wrote that scene, did any writing during the strike. Now, given that he was working incredibly hard on Deadpool and Wolverine, I would have been amazed if he had any time to be, combing through scripts for another film. I would have, the time he had off was during the strikes. Deadpool and Wolverine, they announced publicly that they were set to resume production on November 9th. That's pretty much the day the strikes. Is it the day of or the day after the strikes come to an end? It's also the day that Blake Lively submitted to Wayfarer her 17-point extortion letter, but that's because she wanted to stay in London with her husband while he was filming. So, really, what other time did Ryan Reynolds have? And there is concern over, it's not clear because everything all happened in a very similar time frame. So there will be ways of finding out. I'm not entirely sure how, but there will be ways that would probably involve, discovery on various, you know, monitor computers and things like that. Who accessed what and when? Um, yeah. So I don't know if it's going to be provable whether Ryan Reynolds was a scab because I'm not entirely sure he was. One thing I did notice though was in Justin Baldoni's deposition, Michael Gottlieb asked him, did he think Blake Lively was a scab? Did he think Ryan Reynolds was a scab? Yes, yes. Did he think that did did Justin was is Justin Baldoni a scab? He asked Justin Baldoni that, and Justin Baldoni said, "Well, I continued writing, so if that makes me a scab, can I just point out it doesn't? It doesn't because he's not a WGA member. Okay, so only WGA members who write during WGA strikes can be accused of scab writing. The rules are not applicable to anyone else who is not a member. So even if Blake Lively was writing, this was a whole thing about her. Oh, I'm not crossing the picket line. She's not a member of the friggin' WGA. I feel like that's important to point out. At that point in time, when all the strikes were going off, yes, she was a member of SAG-AFTRA, and they all down tools for that. But when it comes to just the WGA, she was not a member of. She is still not a member of the WGA. She was not a PJ, and she's not a DGA either. But the WGA has repeatedly disciplined members for unapproved writing services, scab writing, hidden rewrites, writing without a contract. So, and in this case, this guy didn't actually do the rewriting himself. He just refused to name the person who did, who's not even a WGA member. So, no rules have been violated in that vein. You know, if the person who even if he named the person, that they're not a WGA member, so they have not violated any rules. It is suspected though that this guy did actually, as a WGA member, did rewrite a scene during the strikes, and the reason he's not naming someone is because he can't. Because why would you not just name someone? Have the lifetime ban removed and be brought back into the WGA, because the person who, in theory, he's been asked to name is not going to face any sanctions whatsoever. So what's the issue? And the only reason that someone wouldn't name someone is because there's no one to name. In my opinion, there may be other reasons, but I can't think of any. But yes, so obviously Ryan Reynolds was the hidden rider. Therefore, it's almost exactly the kind of behavior that the WGA has punished before. What else? Okay. Not this one. Where is that? Oh yes, there's another one as well. Bush. Bush was also charged with violating the Guild's prohibition against working for non-signatory companies. According to the documents, Bush was accused of turning in a revised draft of a pilot script for a show about Elon Musk and Tesla on May 22nd, 3 weeks into the strike. The board said scab writing cannot be tolerated. It's an anathema to the culture of solidarity among the membership that makes the guild a fighting union. Now, Bush is fighting that charge. She's arguing that her lawyers had closed the deal for the show on the eve of the strike and that she had exchanged numerous messages with the WGA lawyers to make sure it was okay. Now, she was found not to have broken the strike rule because the company was not a signatory. She also said that the company had promised to become a signatory, but later reneged on their agreement and refused to pay her. Now, the trial committee recommended a private letter of censure and a bar on serving as a strike captain for 3 years, but the board upgraded the punishment to a suspension through May 2026, a lifetime ban on serving as a captain, and a public censure. In her appeal, she argued that she had not violated the rule against working for a non-signatory company, in part because she never got paid. And again, we did actually kind of address that. Rule 6. So obviously that comes into play here because where is it? Because there are minimums, right? There's working rule 6, working rule 7. You cannot work below minimum or have unapproved compensation. So no member shall participate in any venture requiring the writing of any literary material whereby writer's initial compensation shall be less than the minimum set forth in the applicable MBAs. So no compensation equals below minimum, which equals an automatic violation. So her argument that, well, I didn't get paid, it's irrelevant, and we covered this in part 1 because the fact that Ryan Reynolds didn't get paid, thought he was doing a good thing, was doing it to be kind, whatever, which I don't entirely believe, but the fact that he didn't get paid does not matter because everything is so tightly regulated. Every aspect, including remuneration. And not getting paid means you are, you know, under the prescribed minimum, which is a violation. I don't think I'll go too much more into that because I'll put this link into this article into the video. It's worth a read, definitely, and it's not, identical scenario, but it's always good to have a look and say, well, what does the WGA, usually do? How do they normally treat these things? And the answer is harshly. So it begs the question, how is Ryan Reynolds, right? The world now knows about this as part of a lawsuit. Blake Lively announced it months before the lawsuit on the red carpet. So, how has he not been reported for violations? How have the WGA done nothing about this? And, it's not like people can't report violations. There's a page here on the WGA, Writers Guild of America West, contracts and enforcement, and then the enforcement section, report of violation. You've got all the various, on the right here, you've got all the various people you need to contact specifically with links of how to contact them. So you've got, credit violations would be one, other violations. This could easily be reported if anyone took it upon themselves. Now, I'm not suggesting people do this, but I'm not responsible for anyone either, and can't stop anyone. But I don't know how the WGA hasn't kind of, all because we went through all those violations, right? And we counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 violations. If I just bring back up what I was looking at. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, so these are the violations that I kind of put together, which we went through in part 1. 9 violations. How are the WGA doing absolutely nothing about this, but they are disciplining someone for making a joke in a Facebook group. All right. I'm gonna kind of cut this here and just, I'll move on then, I think, to the PGA or the DGA. I'm not sure which one I'm doing first. I hope you're finding this interesting. Please do like and subscribe the video. It all helps. And thank you for watching.